You won't believe what just happened to the man we all loved as Mr. Baxter from That's So Raven. Just days after laughing and sharing memories with Raven-Symoné on her podcast, Rondell Sheridan was rushed to the hospital, weak, breathless, and confused. Fans were shocked, and honestly, nobody saw it coming. One day, he was all smiles, talking to Raven and her wife like everything was perfect, and then suddenly, everything changed. Let me tell you how things unfolded, and trust me, this is where it gets interesting. Back on April 3rd, Sheridan appeared on the podcast Tea Time with Raven and Miranda. People were excited to see their favorite Disney dad again. He looked healthy, cheerful, and completely normal. There was no sign of any illness. But here's the shocking part. Just 1 week later, he got seriously sick while he was on the road. Out of nowhere, his health took a dangerous turn. He thought it was just a stomach issue, maybe something he ate. So on April 10th, he went to a local hospital where the doctors told him it was gastric problems. Nothing serious, right? Just a little inflammation in the stomach lining. That's what he believed at first. He didn't explain exactly where he was traveling from or what he was doing. All we know is that 2 days later, on April 12th, he made it back home to California and checked into Northridge Hospital. And this is where things got real. The doctors there ran more tests and came back with a completely different diagnosis. Sheridan wasn't dealing with a minor stomach issue. He had pancreatitis and inflammation of the pancreas, and it was serious. Now the story was no longer just about discomfort. It was about a life-threatening condition. This was something he didn't expect. He spent the next 9 days in the hospital, undergoing multiple tests, treatments, and observations. He thought he was getting better, and the doctors even released him. But the truth was they had only kept him in for observation. His pancreas was still badly inflamed, and there wasn't much anyone could do except wait and hope the swelling would go down. It was painful, scary, and frustrating. For someone who made millions laugh, this sudden health crisis was heartbreaking. Now, this is the craziest part. Sheridan didn't just have to fight for his health. He had to worry about his finances too. While still recovering, he made a video from his hospital bed and shared it online. He looked tired, low on energy, and honestly, very vulnerable. He told fans that he wouldn't be able to work for a long time, and that's when he asked for help. He started a GoFundMe campaign to cover his medical bills. And let's be real, this is where the controversy started. People began asking, how could a big TV star like Mr. Baxter be in such a tough financial situation? After Rondell Sheridan posted his video from the hospital, fans couldn't believe what they were seeing. This was Mr. Baxter, the Mr. Baxter asking for financial help, the same man who had been part of one of Disney Channel's most iconic shows. It didn't make sense to many people, and that's when online discussions started heating up. Some fans were deeply supportive and immediately started donating, while others were shocked and confused. They asked, wasn't he getting royalty checks from Disney? Or how could a man with that much history in Hollywood be struggling now? But here's the thing. Many people forget that not all actors stay rich, especially after the fame fades. Sheridan explained that his medical bills were piling up and that he had no choice. He wasn't working, and with this illness keeping him out of action, there was no steady income. He made it clear that the donations were only for just expenses. Nothing extra, nothing fancy. He wasn't asking for luxury. He was asking for help to survive, to cover the costs of recovery. And this is what made people really stop and think. What if this happened to someone in their own family? What if someone they loved went from healthy to hospitalized in days and couldn't even afford to get better? But here's where it gets even more emotional. Despite the questions and doubts from some corners of the internet, the support was overwhelming. By the next day, the GoFundMe page had already passed $36,000. That's right. Within hours of sharing his story, fans, friends, and strangers came through. The comment section was filled with love and encouragement. People were calling him Dad in the most heartfelt way. One person wrote, "Dad, no, we got you. We absolutely got you. We'll help you." Another added, "You are a legend, sir. I hope you have a speedy recovery." The fans didn't just remember him, they loved him. And what makes this story different? A few big names quietly stepped in to help too. One of the most notable was Kenan Thompson, the former All That Child star and current SNL icon, who dropped a whopping $7,000 donation. No announcement, no interview, just silent support. That moment showed the world that real friends in the industry still exist. It wasn't about fame or headlines. It was about helping someone who clearly needed it. That act alone got people talking. People started wondering who else from Sheridan's past would show up to help. But here's the twist nobody expected. Even though thousands of people were donating, Sheridan still hadn't said what caused the pancreatitis. According to medical experts like Johns Hopkins, pancreatitis can happen for many reasons: alcohol abuse, smoking, high calcium levels, certain medications, tumors, and even stress. But Sheridan didn't mention any of that. He didn't say if he had any of these risk factors. That silence made some people wonder, was he hiding something? Or was it just too personal to share? This mystery added another layer to the story. Fans were supporting him, yes, but others were starting to ask tough questions. Was there something else going on behind the scenes? Something he wasn't ready to talk about yet? Because as more donations came in, the pressure to explain grew stronger. But Sheridan remained quiet, focusing only on recovery. While the support kept pouring in, the silence around the cause of Rondell Sheridan's condition became louder. People were beginning to dig. Speculation flooded social media. Some said maybe it was years of stress catching up with him. Others wondered if he had been hiding his health problems for a long time. And then there were those who brought up the darker possibilities: addiction, depression, or private battles that fans never saw. No one knew for sure, but this is where it gets interesting. The more questions that came up, the more curious people became. What was really going on behind that hospital curtain? And then came the whispers. Why did this happen just days after the Raven reunion? Was it just a coincidence? Or was that meeting the beginning of the breakdown? Think about it. Rondell had been off the radar for years. He wasn't involved in Raven's Home, the reboot of the original series. His appearance on Tea Time with Raven and Miranda was the first time fans saw him back in the spotlight with Raven-Symoné. It was supposed to be a feel-good reunion, a moment of nostalgia. But could it have been more emotional than it seemed? Could that meeting have triggered something deeper in him, mentally or emotionally? Some fans started theorizing that maybe he had been carrying hidden pain from the past, maybe about being left out of the reboot, or maybe about how Hollywood had treated him after his peak years. After all, actors who shine in one big role often get forgotten once the spotlight moves on. And here's the craziest part. Sheridan never really talked about his life after that So Raven. He kept things quiet, stayed out of drama, and just disappeared. That sudden reappearance, followed by a serious health crash, left people wondering if the stress of resurfacing was too much. But there was something else unusual too. Raven herself hadn't made a public statement about his illness, not a word, and fans noticed. The same person who had just sat with him on her podcast hadn't posted a "get well soon" or even a repost of the GoFundMe. People started tagging her, asking for support, wanting answers, but still, silence. And that silence started to feel heavy. Was something going on between them? Was their reunion not as perfect as it seemed on camera? Or was Raven simply giving him space during a hard time? This silence started creating tension online. Some people defended Raven, saying maybe she was helping behind the scenes. Others weren't so kind. They said she owed him support publicly, especially after their recent reunion gave fans hope of seeing them together again. People were divided, but regardless of where they stood, one thing was clear. This story wasn't just about pancreatitis anymore. It was becoming a much bigger conversation about what happens to stars after the fame fades and who shows up when they need help the most. As the days passed and donations continued climbing, the truth behind Rondell Sheridan's situation hit people even harder. By now, the GoFundMe had crossed $57,000 from over 1,400 donations. That's not just support, that's love from a generation who grew up watching him, laughing with him, and seeing him as the strong, funny dad they never forgot. But here's where it gets even more powerful. This wasn't just a medical emergency anymore. This was a wake-up call, not just for fans, but for the entertainment world itself. People started realizing something deeper. If a respected actor like Sheridan, who played one of the most iconic TV dads of the 2000s, could end up in a hospital bed, fighting for his health and asking for help just to survive, then how many others were silently going through the same thing? It opened people's eyes to how fragile life after fame can be. The lights dim, the roles slow down, the paychecks stop, but the bills, the pain, and the pressure don't. And this is where the story took a truly emotional turn. Destiny had taken an unexpected path for Sheridan, but it also pulled people together in a way no one expected. Fans began sharing their own stories under his posts, stories of illness, of being ignored, of fighting alone. Suddenly, this wasn't just about a Disney star anymore. It was about all the forgotten people who once gave the world so much joy and were now struggling in silence. That's what made this story different. It connected generations. It showed the internet can still be a place of heart, not just hate. And finally, something beautiful happened. As people talked, questioned, and supported, one thing remained untouched: Rondell Sheridan's legacy. No matter the silence from Raven, no matter the unanswered questions about what caused his illness, and no matter how uncertain his future seemed, fans never stopped seeing him as dad. The one who raised them on screen, the one who made them laugh when life wasn't so easy, the one they were now lifting up when his life got hard. So here we are, a beloved star in a hospital bed, a fan base rising like a family, and a story that went from reunion joy to unexpected heartbreak to a powerful message the world needed to hear. Fame may fade, but real love, real respect, that lasts forever. And if you're wondering what happens next, stay close. Because as more updates come in, as more names come forward, and as Sheridan's journey continues, one thing is for sure, this story is far from over.